Welcome to the World of Horror podcast with Mom and Mac. I'm Mom.
And I'm Mac.
This is the podcast where we share our love of international horror. Everyone has their fears, but we are not afraid of subtitles. Disclaimers for adult language and spoilers. Hi, Mac. How's it going?
Hi, Mom. Okay, it's all right, but I've got, let me tell you what, this just happened. But I've been trying to get some fucking Reebok shoes, and this apparently is a Herculean feat. And I ordered from Reebok, and then they were like, your order's canceled. And they didn't tell me why, and they didn't refund me. And so I was like, excuse me, why? And they were like, oh, well, we were out of stock, actually. I'm sorry, here's your refund. They're like not cheap. So I was like, you can't just like cancel and not refund me. Okay. So then I order from Fleet Feet. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, I'll just like throw in some Hokas too. Why not? And that's not even why I was there, but I was like, let me order those too. The Reeboks get canceled and the Hokas are on their way. Like, just cancel it all then,
Maybe they're coming from overseas.
I'm just like, how did I hit buy? And you were like, give me the money, yes. And now you're like, oh, we don't have it actually. Get your shit together.
I'm sure merchants don't know what the hell is going on themselves, but that does sound very frustrating.
I was literally just like, why? Like, why? Because my friend Madison invited me to join her CrossFit gym. I went to one CrossFit and it was very fun, but it did kick my ass. And they were like, those are the wrong shoes. So, okay, I'm getting new shoes because the Hokas are like thick-heeled. Apparently this is, God is like, no, you're not. No, you're not getting those shoes. I don't want you to be fit.
I don't think that's the conclusion.
I think that's what, yeah.
I had really great luck with Saucony and Asics.
Okay, I'll check them out.
Yeah. And now I don't buy anything but Brooks.
Do they have like, because they said the Hokas, the heels are too thick, and to do like squats, you need thin heels. So that's what they said. That's what they said.
I go to Body Pump and the ladies there wear Hokas, and there are lots of squats in Body Pump. So I think they're talking out of their ass.
Well, I was like, I'm happy to just get more shoes. I don't mind to become a shoe head.
But yeah, it's good to go get fitted at least once, and then like what brands you can get that work with your feet.
Yeah, and I should just go do that instead of ordering. I should just like go to a store.
Yeah,
but it's like so much work.
I hate it.
I hate being like, they don't fit. Sorry, what were you saying?
No, I just ordered some shoes too, and they were so cute. I showed them to you, these Doc Marten shoes, and they just didn't fit. And I think it's the kind of thing, if I got a size smaller, they wouldn't fit either. I just think some brands just don't fit your feet. So I thought, well, why don't I just go with brands I already know? I just feel like those are kind of on the verge of being old lady shoes, but I need to have
Doc
something.
Martens?
No, the ones that, the second ones I showed you, the Allegrias, because I need to be able to stand on my feet for a long period of time. So I don't know, if they're kind of frumpy, that's the price I'm going to have to pay.
I think they're cute. So.
But I hate going into an actual store.
I feel like a king, but like a reluctant king, because being like, oh, this pair doesn't fit. Go to the back.
Send it back. Yes.
Just send it back. I feel like and they have to be, and this isn't their fault, but they have to be really nice for me to feel like I can, like, if they're not nice, I'll be like, okay, these are fine. I'll get them, So I need them, or I need Alan, because last time I tried on shoes, he was like, get up and walk in them. I was like, oh, okay, I can do that. Is that okay?
That's really funny. Okay, I have to tell you about this scare I had last night.
Tell me.
So, I never have ants. Well, all of a sudden I have ants because I don't know, it's August and whatever. So I looked up how do you get rid of ants, and apparently they hate the smell of peppermint oil. So I got some peppermint oil and I've been putting it like in my windowsill or my door jamb or, just like these places where the ants are going to come in. And then all of a sudden I was like, let me check something. Is it safe for cats?
Oh.
So I type in peppermint oil safe for cats and it says no. Peppermint oils, many essential oils are toxic to cats. So I was just like, what? So at first I put the cotton ball like in the garbage can. I'm like, that's not good enough. And then finally I was lying in bed and I'm just like, what if I wake up and, Rosie's not okay? And I'm like, I
No.
would not be able to live with myself. So I got out of bed. I put the cotton ball outside my front door. Sorry to all the wildlife outside my front door. But she was fine. She didn't cough or anything. Everything was just fine. But I was so scared.
Yeah. OCD is I just was like, oh my God, that I have been there so many times of just lying in bed and being like, and then like just, every bad thing you can ever imagine like pops into your head and you just think like, oh, and it'll be my fault and I'll never forgive myself. And, but I did that same thing the other day with like, I had the cats, because after they are done with their wet food, I put the bowls back in the sink and fill them with water. And then I was also doing like a craft. So I like, washed the paintbrush off. And then later, like 30 minutes later, I'm thinking, what if some of the paint debris got into the bowl and then I don't think of it later and I don't wash it out. So I just had to go back and like scrub them as much as I could. And they're obviously nobody, passed away or anything. But yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was ridiculous. So finally I ended up sleeping on the couch because I had to be closer to the cat. And how would that help?
I get the logic though of being like, I'll be there in case if something should happen,
Yeah. So that was really scary. My house does still sort of smell of peppermint oil, which I think is pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. And when you look up like a Google search and the first thing is no, this is toxic to cats, and then the Reddit, the first Reddit thing that comes up is like my cat died, and I'm like, no.
Yes. Yeah.
Terrifying.
It shows you it's like it went into your brain and is like, what would freak you out the most?
Yeah.
Here. This is for
Here you
you.
go. Well, also, do you have this thing? Because I think I don't know when it started, but I feel like when I lie down to go to bed, it's like every embarrassing thing I've ever done like pops into my head.
Yes.
Like mistakes I made when I was a kid and just like ridiculous stuff I did when I was drinking and terrible things I said to my sister. Just like, what? Why?
Yeah, get out. Like, shut up.
Yeah.
To your head. Yeah. No, yes.
Okay. Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one, but I'm sorry that happens to you too, because it's like, it's torture.
I wonder if there's something like, I don't know. Could there be something in the universe that just is making every anxious thing worse? Because I feel like I was not this anxious like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And this month it's like a friend who I already know is a notorious, not very good at texting back quickly person. And I know this, and they've assured me so many times, like they even told me like, because you are so like, because I am so like, oh, it's okay, don't worry about it. They don't feel as anxious about texting me back as soon because I've created an environment where it's like, oh, Mac won't be mad at me. So I know this. And yet when they didn't text me back, I like spiraled. I was like, they hate me. I did something. They think I'm evil. I remind them of their evil dad. Like, just all this crazy shit. And then literally they texted me back and because I had just said something like, oh, I'm so mean when I wake up or something. And then it was left on red. And I was like, I'm a horrible person. They think I'm a horrible person. And then, of course, the text back was, me too. Yeah, I'm like that too. But the hours I spent just being like, wow, they hate me and I'm a horrible person. That's so crazy, and crying to Alan. And he was like, your feelings are valid, but I don't think they are correct.
That's good. That's a good way to put it. I mean, yeah, you feel what you feel and you think what you think, but let's just do a reality check for 5 seconds and I know. Maybe that's it. Maybe I just need to talk to more people,
Yeah, you should.
Yeah. I will. Look, I'm going back to school next week and I'll be so peopled out by Wednesday. It'll not even
You'll
be
be like,
funny.
get me back to isolation.
Yeah. I know. Well, we were trying to read our schedule today, and it looks like this is what it looks like. It can't be this. It looks like we go to one campus, have lunch there, and then go to another campus and spend 2.5 more hours in the afternoon doing something. I'm like, that cannot be real.
Yeah.
But I don't know. They usually do this to us on a Thursday, Friday, and then we go back to work on a Monday. This year, for some reason, they're doing it to us on a Monday, Tuesday, and then they're giving us Wednesday, and then the kids come on Thursday.
What the heck?
You don't even have a weekend.
Yeah. That's just brutal.
Yeah, it's going to be rough. But I mean, my first Thursday and my first Friday are going to be a lot of, well, here's the class. This is what philosophy is. What do you think it is? Let's do some writing. Let me tell you about my grading policy, all that kind of stuff.
Easy.
But I have one class, that's 2 hours, 40 minutes. So I'll have to fill the time somehow.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It's going to be a lot of icebreakers.
Yeah. I feel like though you are going to be an understanding teacher, I think they will appreciate that that especially I feel like as time goes on, younger people have less and less ability to sit there and focus for that long. So I feel like you will, they might see your class as oh, she gets it.
Well, yeah, because I have ADD and I can't talk for an hour. I mean, that's insane. So I try to keep it under 20 minutes with slides and, sometimes a game. But yeah, they're going to have to get up and move around for sure. And I just sort of decided we're going to pack up at the 2.5 hour mark.
Nice.
I don't know.
They're going to do it anyway.
Yeah, they're going to do it anyway.
I remember being a TA and it being like, y'all, there is 10 minutes left. Why are we putting papers in book bags?
Yeah. I mean, my campus is really small too, so they don't even have the excuse, I've got to get across campus. But I think after 2.5 hours, I'll be like, just go.
Get out of here.
And then I have to teach another class after that. I've just been complaining to a lot of people about this because my boss, who's a dizzy Delilah, oh my God, she finalized the schedule yesterday. And I didn't know what classes I was teaching until yesterday. And
that's just wrong.
It's so disrespectful. It's just maddening. And I had already altered one of the courses that I'm not even going to end up teaching.
Bruh.
So yeah, it's a lot.
That shit gets me so mad because then they have the gall to be like, or at least at my job, it's big corporate all staff meetings. It's all this talk about, you know, let's be our best people and we expect good work out of you guys. And it's like, okay, it's a two-way street, buckaroo. Like, I'm being gaslit right now. Like, you're acting as if you're on top of it when you've got no marbles. Which reminds me, I am like, it really is true that at so many jobs, it's the people that make life hard and not the job itself. Because, so my job, I'm going to try to say this, like, not get too into the weeds, but we got acquired by a big company. And so now our old brand name gone. We're a new brand. And we use the same website. And my team used to post ourselves. And I mean, I could get stuff posted in under 5 minutes. And it's the exact same, you know, software to post. But at this new company, we have to go through a whole team who are all incompetent and sometimes extremely passive aggressive for no reason. And like on Friday, I had to stay like an hour and a half late for something that 6 months ago I could have done again in under 5 minutes. And it, like, we are pretty pedantic, like for our Excel sheets, like every tab, the cursor has to be on the top left cell. But this is stuff that they already knew. And they are extremely pedantic too about their rules. And so, like, I had sent them something to post and they were like, oh, well, you didn't do this thing. And so I fixed it. They posted it and then the cursor's all over the place on every tab. So I was like, well, can you fix the cursor thing? And this is already the third time I've had to say this to them and like submit a whole form to get them to change it. And this lady has the gall to be like, well, this is the first time we're hearing of this. So, and I just was like, I mean, like, you're lying. Like, you're just like, it's not true. Yeah. But I was trying to be nice since we had also made a mistake. I was like, you know, going forward, we'll make sure to do your pedantic little thing. So it's okay that you didn't do our pedantic little thing. In my head, I didn't say it like that, but you know, I was being extremely nice. Like, you know, let's work together. And her only response is, well, like I said, we didn't know about it until today. And I just was like, I'm like, she's trying to make me mad and it's working. Like, she wanted to upset me and it worked. And then I spent 30 extra minutes afterwards just being angry. And I just was like, like, I was like, should I get fired right now and just call her a bitch? Like, should I do that? Should I just be like, you know what, bitch? Like, that's what I wanted to do so bad. And it's not the first time this lady's pulled this bullshit. Because whenever she has something to tell us, a rule that they've made up that they've never mentioned before, they're like, and by the way, you can do this on your end too. Smiley face.
Oh, wow.
The smiley face might as well be a middle finger. I would prefer the middle finger because at least they would be being honest. But to be like, you can do it yourself. Fuck you. I was so mad.
I'll have to send you this one guy I follow on Instagram. He's got like really great comebacks and stuff.
Ooh,
but
like
yeah,
corporate
comebacks. Yeah. I was wondering, yeah, like yesterday, is this the year that I get fired? Cause I don't know. I was texting with a coworker and they were like, I do not like her. And I was like, yeah, cause she can't do her job. It's like, she's an okay person.
Yeah. But just
can't
inept.
do her job. Yeah. So, and it's hard when those people are above you and you have to listen to what they say because you're just like, yeah, you're an idiot.
And you just know they make more money than you. And it's just like, you don't deserve it.
I know. I was like, maybe I should go for her job. And I'm like, no, because then I would work all year. I wouldn't, you know, I'd be a 12-month employee. Can you imagine? No, thanks. I just don't think there is enough money.
Yeah. But yeah. It's crazy that some people, though, like I've realized, I mean, I realized this a few years ago as like an adult with a job, but like the standard I've been holding myself to is like so much higher than the world expects of me, which is kind of depressing. And like people who are just actively dumb, stupid idiots, like for some people, it's like insanely hard for them to get fired. So I'm like, why am I always afraid I'm going to get fired? Because
Yeah.
like these bozos are walking around fucking everything up and they're getting promoted. So like I should chill. And so I've like, uh, if you're from my job, stop listening. I've like done a concentrated effort to just do less and nobody's noticed. So why would I do more?
That's the horrible thing because I have that same impulse. I'm like, why am I killing myself to do like the spectacular job when it doesn't matter? I'm not making
Yeah.
any more money or, getting any more benefits or anything like that. So, and I know, I know really incompetent teachers. And students will tell me, I have this teacher this semester. And it's like, that's sad. Like, that
That
is,
they can realize it.
yeah. So it's in every industry and it's just frustrating. And I don't even feel good that like I'm a good teacher or whatever. I'm just
Yeah.
resentful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so wild because when you have great employees like we are, if they actually were like the jobs that I grew up thinking existed, you would be rewarded for your good work and then you'd want to do even better and then they'd get even more productivity out of you. But that's not even what they want. Like they don't even want that. Like jobs do not want you, like you being a good employee is more like, can you like eat my asshole? And like that is what they want out of you.
Oh my God. Speaking of eating assholes,
That's a great segue.
I was going to say it makes me want to go into murders and executions, actually.
Murders and execution.
Do
That's good.
you like it?
I love that.
Okay, so WoHos, this week we're talking about serial killers. And somebody had the bright idea to do American Psycho. That was me. And Mac had the very good idea to read the novel. We both read the novel. And so we were able to talk about the novel in the context of the film. It's exhausting.
Yeah. It's so crazy because I still would rate the novel very highly, but I actually could not recommend anyone in the world to read it. And if you do read it, like, just like be prepared. Like I was just in a bad mood after every setting that I read it in. I would just like Alan would be like, I'd take the headphones off and he'd be like, hey, I'd be like, I need a second.
I know. And I listened to it over 2 days, which I would not recommend at all.
That's crazy.
Oh man, it's so much. And we'll get into it. But I just feel like the movie is sort of a suggestion of the novel.
It's so crazy because actually I would say after watching the movie, after just finishing the novel yesterday, it has to be one of the best horror adaptations I think I've ever seen. It's somehow so faithful, but also not. But all the stuff it takes out, you're relieved that it took out. But then at the same time, I feel like that takes away the whole point of it.
Yeah.
So if I was Bret Easton Ellis, I feel like I'd kind of resent this palatable movie, which it's palatable in comparison to how horrible. But it's like, that's the whole point, And like to take out all the like misogyny, or I mean, the misogyny's still there, but to take out all the racism and homophobia, it's like, that's like a core part of what he's trying to talk about. But then also it's horrible. Like if you look at the Goodreads reviews, so many of them are from people who are like, I already experienced this enough on a daily basis. I don't want to read it. I'm like, that's fair. That's fair. It's tough.
Yeah, it's a tough read for sure. And I was telling you, like, be prepared, be ready.
So, American Psycho. Here is the short plot summary from IMDb. A wealthy New York City investment banking executive, Patrick Bateman, hides his alternate psychopathic ego from his coworkers and friends as he delves deeper into his violent, hedonistic fantasies. It was directed by Mary Harron, with screenplay by Mary Harron and Guinevere Turner, based on American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. It stars Christian Bale, Willem Dafoe, Jared Leto, Josh Lucas, Samantha Mathis, Matt Ross, Bill Sage, Chloe Savini, Cara Seymour, Justin Theroux, Guinevere Turner, and Reese Witherspoon, with cinematography by Andrzej Sekala, edited by Andrew Marcus, and music by John Cale. It was released January 21st, 2000 at Sundance and April 14th, 2000 in the US and Canada, with a runtime of 102 minutes. I feel like this is a pretty great runtime. I would say sometimes to me, great adaptations of a book feel like a music video for the book.
Yeah.
And that's what this feels like. I do feel like watching this. I remember watching this multiple times before ever reading the book, and I was very confused many times. But then after reading the book, I just knew, even without them describing what was happening, I knew exactly what was happening. Like, it's so weird. I would still say it's a great adaptation, and you don't necessarily have to read the novel to enjoy it, but reading it does make it intensely more enjoyable, because it is, again, the most like palatable parts of the book, which is extremely unpalatable. And also takes out like, okay, part of the book and part of what I see so many people talk about is the pages upon pages of like mind, like numbing detail he goes into. And I think if I had read that with my eyes, I would have been like, get this over with. But listening to it on 1.5 speed, I kind of like, I would be doing my crafts and I would just be like, tell me more about this suit. Like, or when they would talk about reservations, that was my favorite part. Like, I kind of loved it. So I kind of missed that.
It's the first 2 chapters. It's like nothing but description. And I was like, is this what this is? Because I don't know if I can hang. But it is not.
It certainly then gets very mind-numbing details about shit you never wanted details about ever. And I wanted to ask, because the setting of it, you know, it's like in the 80s, right?
87.
How did you feel? Like, I know you weren't living in New York at the time, but it felt like a time capsule reading it, you know?
Yeah, there were a couple of things I looked up. When were CDs? When did CDs come out? Because I don't remember CDs sort of being a thing until like 1990. But apparently they came out in Japan in 1982. And so Bateman would have had access to them in 1987. It was a little bit of an anachronism, but maybe not too much. Another thing is the Just Say No thing was huge. It was Nancy Reagan who had this anti-drug campaign, Just Say No. So when somebody offers you drugs, you just say no. So he says that twice. So I think that was important. And the die yuppie scum that's, you know, on his walls, I think is also of the time. And Slash and whoever the woman is, they look like punks. Yeah, and some of the fashion I thought, like in the clubs and stuff, was really good. I don't know about, like, you know, the fashion that Bateman wears, if that was, you know, accurate or whatever, but the counterculture stuff, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. It felt like very faithful, but I was like, well, I don't know though, because I was not alive. But it was just like so fun to read sometimes, of like, this is a totally specific slice of history.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Because the late 80s were different than the early 80s. And I graduated high school in 1987. So it's a very, you know, it's a very memorable time in my memory. So, yeah.
Oh, and I also noticed that like HIV was like such a big talking point in like so many, by so many people, and like misinformation being spread.
Oh no, that was no joke. Yeah. We had an assembly, I remember, in high school about what AIDS was and how it was transmitted and stuff. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get into the plot. So we open with Bateman and colleagues at dinner and then at a club. And everybody is kind of a running thing that everybody like looks exactly the same, dresses very similarly to the point that nobody really knows like that their clothes and their items are what everybody knows about each other, but not faces in any way. And I do think Christian Bale just does like his look is just so perfect. I mean, again, I know I read the book, or I mean, I saw the movie before I read the book, but he is Patrick Bateman to me. Um, and we get a flash of like this kind of unreality where it's kind of ambiguous of whether or not he's actually saying the things he's saying. But for instance, Patrick smiles at the bartender, but when he turns away, in like the mirror above the bar, we hear him call her a fucking ugly bitch and say that he wants to stab her to death and then play around with her blood. But when she turns back around, there's like no reaction and he just like smiles and stuff. So from the very beginning, it's kind of like, is he doing all this? And this was true in the book too, because he would say these things and nobody would say, hey, what did you just say to me? And so we get our little intro, which I feel like this is such an iconic scene in the movie, which is him talking about the fancy apartment he lives, his exercise, his diet, his shower, his skincare routine. And this is pretty eerie to me now because I feel like unironically, this is just how a lot of influencers talk, or like when they're talking about their morning routine, they'll just bring like, it's so over the top, the shit that this man does. But I have seen influencers do more than this in like, here's what I do every day. And maybe they do, but maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, he takes his appearance very seriously. And as he's like taking off this like clear face mask, he says, there is an idea of a Patrick Bateman, some kind of abstraction, but there is no real me, only an entity, something illusory. And though I can hide my cold gaze, and you can shake my hand and feel flesh gripping yours, and maybe you can even sense our lifestyles are probably comparable, I simply am not there. Ah, so good. Like, there is some prose in the novel that is so beautiful. Like, when he's really monologuing in his head, it is just downright beautiful, and you do wonder like, why am I relating to this man right now in a way? But then, you know, he'll like say the N-word or something and you're like, oh my God, like it just like shocks you.
But I think when the screenplay was adapted from the novel, it sort of feels like puzzle pieces were put in like a different order. Like I think that monologue comes at the very end when he's dissociating and he's talking about himself in the third person. But here we get it almost immediately. So a lot of interesting choices.
Yeah, and that's why I do like this adaptation. I really feel like anytime I notice stuff like that, I was down with it. I was like, I see why you did this. You know, it's a different medium. And I think Mary Harron obviously like really studied the book, I think, because like basically almost all the dialogue is from the book. And there are only a few scenes that I don't think were in the book at all. But then even then I understood why she put them in there. But yeah, I noticed that too. I was like, wait a second, this was at the end, but I liked it. So he's just a very, like image conscious, person, like with his secretary, Jean, you know, Chloe Savini, she's very sweet. She's very normal. You're instantly like, get as far away as you can from this man. And she's, you know, just wearing a very like 80s business casual. And he's like, you know, don't wear that outfit again and wear heels. I like heels, you know, but it's not portrayed as like, I mean, this is obviously sexist, but like Jean is portrayed as kind of being like, oh, okay, you know, like, okay, Mr. Bateman. And so then he's with Evelyn, his supposed fiance, and she, in a way, is kind of like, without the psycho part, I mean, she's just like a female version of him. She's also very image conscious. I feel like she's also very vapid in her own way. And, you know, she's talking about what she wants their wedding to look like while he's listening to music next to her. And, he says, oh, well, I can't, I have to work. And she's like, why? Like, your father owns the company. You don't even have to do it. And he says, it's because I want to fit in. And I thought that was very interesting too, because in the beginning of the book, we don't know this, I think, that he quite literally doesn't have to work. And I had just read Pride and Prejudice, and so much of that book is like, people having attendants and like servants and stuff. And I feel like this is such an interesting portrayal of like how individualistic America is. Like, of course, people are still making his food, but he has to go to a restaurant, and he's, nobody's dressing him in the morning. He's dressing himself. And, but yeah, something I love is that we never actually see him do any fucking work, which is really funny to me and is how I feel like anytime I've been in a corporate job, I really have been like, what do these dudes do all day? Like my coworkers, I'm like, I just see them talking. Like they don't do anything. So then we meet Bryce, Courtney, and Lewis. And, we see Evelyn getting like really close with Bryce, and Patrick like doesn't seem to be fazed at all by this. And he wonders if Evelyn is having an affair with him. And he's like, well, she would be furious if she knew I'm having an affair with Courtney, Lewis's girlfriend. And he also says that, Bryce is the most like interesting person he knows. And they do cut out a very significant thing with Bryce, and like they kind of chop and screw it to where half of the scene is more so at the end. But like it, to me, it was one of the most interesting parts of the early novel that get you like feeling like, oh, what's going to happen in this, where Bryce just leaves. Like he's like, I have to go, and just goes off into a tunnel and nobody knows where he goes. And I thought he killed himself. Like that's literally what I thought happened to him. But then he comes back later. But I was kind of sad that that wasn't included, because I feel like that's such a poignant shift in the novel where, you wonder if Patrick's the only one that's kind of like this, but then you realize, no, maybe everybody is kind of like this. And again, it's like, I can see why they took out the racism, because it's not great, to witness or to listen to. But I think a very interesting piece is that I believe it's Lewis is super racist towards Japanese people, or is it another person? But maybe it's another person. But there's another guy in the friend group who's just super racist, specifically towards Japanese people. And he talks about being violent. And so it makes you wonder, like, does this guy do the same stuff? And yeah, it's like, because something that I love in the book, like obviously, okay, I don't love racism, but I think a great statement in the book is Patrick will say the most heinous racist thing you've ever heard. And then the next chapter is him talking about like Whitney Houston and going on and on about her album. And I just think that is such a great statement about how like people are just full of bullshit, and will act as though they feel one way, but then in their real life are like the worst. And that even like identity and like, being socially aware can be commodified and used to your personal gain. And that's just kind of completely taken out of the movie.
Yeah, I don't know, I don't think it would have been able to be portrayed, in a way that made sense in the movie. But I mean, I was just thinking about, how evil these guys are, because they're just like pure capitalists. And then it makes sense that they would be, these flaming racists. But I really don't think there are like a couple of comments, and there's like an F slur at one point. And I think one of the funniest lines is Bateman says that Huey Lewis is too black sounding for his taste, which is pretty hilarious. But yeah, I don't know. I think it was a good choice, but you definitely lose some of the texture, I guess, in the characterization of these guys.
Yeah, because I mean, to me, something I noticed is that Bateman almost feels like softer in this
Mm-hmm.
movie. Like in the book, I think he's scary. He's like a scary individual. But by the end, you kind of feel for him. Like you kind of, your heart in a way goes out for him. And even though he's saying line for line the same stuff in the book, you don't feel bad for him because you're like, well, you're like a total piece of shit. You have depth. There's some depth to you, but that doesn't excuse your heinous actions. Whereas in the movie, by the end, you're kind of like, oh,
I know.
at least I
Well,
was.
yeah, and I feel like I looked up Christian Bale, and I think I told you he was 25 when he made this movie, and I just kept especially in the Paul Allen scene. We'll get to it, but he looks like a boy to me um, after he's
Yeah.
killed Paul, and yeah, I think it's him. I think it's his face and his portrayal that does it. Because I think, and then some of the choices that the director made in terms of like the sex scene, which is really a rape scene in the book. So
Yes.
things like that definitely make a
And I gotta
difference.
say, I really do not, it's my opinion, I really do not like Jared Leto as Paul Allen. Like, that was a bad choice, in my opinion. I don't really like the man himself. He has history of very bad behavior, but I feel like Paul Allen, in his own way, is like an entity in the book. And he's just pathetic to me in the
Mhm.
movie. It's like, at least make him taller than Patrick. Like, come on.
Yeah, I know. For some reason, I thought Philip Seymour Hoffman was in this movie, and he's not. But I think he
That
could
would have
have
been
been a
great.
good Paul Allen.
Yeah, like somebody that feels like that you understand why Patrick is so obsessed
Yeah,
with
like
him, but
Paul
you
just
don't in
seems
the
like a
movie.
weasel.
Yeah, he's so tiny and and I say this like lovingly towards Rick Moranis, but Rick Moranis-esque. And no, he should not feel like that. He should feel like worse than Patrick,
Yeah, somebody like
and he
with
doesn't.
like presence and like gravitas or something. But yeah, he doesn't have it.
No. Um so then we see this scene of Patrick walking next to a woman on the street. And I do like this because I feel like part of Patrick's character is that being a white man, white, like attractive man, it helps him get away with things. And though this woman does seem kind of like put off by the fact that he's, standing next to her, like he just smiles at her a little bit weirdly. But I just think there's a camouflage that, like something I noticed watching especially the Aussie traders. If it's a white man, he can get away with so much more than like a person of color on that show. Like a person of color could be the most innocent person. People be like, I think they're a
Yeah,
traitor. But though a white man could be the most guilty man, even not even pull it off well. And they're like, well, I don't know. I just don't see it. And I think this is a good, you know, shows that in the movie. And then we get a cut to, and this was one of my favorite scenes in the book, him yelling at this Chinese woman at the dry cleaners. He's got these obviously blood-stained sheets, and he's just like yelling at this woman, and even then says to her like, I'm gonna fucking kill you. And she's like, oh my gosh. And and I just love it, the description in the book, because he's like, I'm almost in tears. I feel like I'm gonna lose it. Like just the way he's talking is so funny. And then like a woman comes in who recognizes him, but he totally does not recognize her. But basically women are throwing themselves at this man. Like she's like, oh, well, if we could get dinner later. He's like, you know what? I'm busy. I got to get out of here. Can you deal with this? And like gets her to do the dry cleaning, like take care of it for him. And calls her by the wrong name and leaves. So then we see him talking with, Courtney, Lewis's girlfriend, on the phone while he's watching porn on his TV. And he tempts Courtney with the promise of dinner at Dorsia, which is the hottest new club. And also great commentary about just like, I don't know, depressed people. And like this woman is like losing it on lithium, just in and out of consciousness, lying in bed. She looks so like luxurious. And yeah, she's only going to go out with him because he supposedly gets tables at Dorsia, but he can't. When he calls the guy on the phone, he just laughs at him
Yeah.
when he asks for a reservation. And so and I think I like it better in the book because he just slyly takes her to Barcadia instead. And she's so pissed off in the book, but in the movie, she's so doped up that she doesn't even notice. And later is telling everybody about the great time they had at Dorsia. And so then we meet the aforementioned Paul Allen, who mistakes Patrick for a Marcus Halberstram. And Patrick says that he actually understands why, because they go to the same barber, except Patrick has a better haircut, and that they both wear like Oliver Peoples glasses. And, but he plays along with it. And he's even like, yeah, Cynthia, my girlfriend Cynthia, she's great. And, Paul just drops that he actually has a reservation on Friday at Dorsia to everybody's, like they're all envious. And somebody's like, he's probably lying, which is what Patrick did. And then we have the iconic business card scene. This is just such a great scene where Patrick puts down his business cards. It's bone white. He just got it at the printers. And they all start doing like a dick measuring contest with their business cards. And I mean, they all look practically the same, with very little like texture difference. But like Patrick is like about to fucking lose it. Like Christian Bale should have gotten an Oscar for this scene because the face acting where he just is so full of like rage. And in the book, I just love it because he's like thinking to himself, like, why the fuck did I bring this up? Like, I brought this up thinking that I was going to have the best looking business card. And now they all have better looking business cards than me. And he asks to see Paul Allen's business card because he had just given it to Bryce. And when he looks at it, he's just like, his hand shakes and it falls from his hand. And it's just so good. Like, they're just so... The worst stuff is the most important to these men. Stuff that like your average person would never notice, but like that's the minute detail and whatnot these guys are into. So then we have a scene with a homeless man where he happens upon a homeless man in like a dark alleyway, and you just know something bad's about to happen. Like he first acts like he's going to give the guy some money, but then he, is like, why don't you just get a job? Just berating this guy. And he's like, why'd you lose your old one? It's because you were drinking. And, this poor guy is just like, oh, you're so kind. And in the book, it's a lot more graphic somehow. Because in the movie, you might think, well, this is pretty graphic. No, it's worse. I won't say what happens, but in the movie, he stabs him to death. And then we see him, like we see the like, I'm glad this was not portrayed in detail, but like he also hurts the guy's dog and just walks away. And I just think this is a great scene though, because of how vulnerable like that man is and how nobody, like he walks away like nothing happened and nothing will ever happen to him for having done this. And I wish though, some way they could have portrayed in the book what I think is such a great piece of like, is this all in his head when he sees the homeless man later in the book? And you wonder, like, did he just see a guy who was missing his eyes, who got hurt in the war and he made this up in his head, but it makes him question his own reality? I get they can't include everything, but I did like that scene. So then we see Patrick getting a facial and a manicure. And, this woman above him is like, your skin is so beautiful, Mr. Bateman. And he's monologuing and says that the only emotions he feels are greed and disgust. And next we see Evelyn's Xmas party. This was one of my favorite scenes in the book too, because of how insane it got. But in the movie, this was a weird, like she didn't have a potbelly pig in the book,
No,
right?
I think
That was just
somebody
something
else had one, but that was at
okay.
the beach, maybe.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Oh no, they got a dog.
Yeah, they got a
at the
dog.
beach.
Yeah. Evelyn and Patrick
Yeah.
did. But anyway, I don't remember.
Yeah. But they're at Evelyn's Christmas party, and Paul mistakes Patrick for Marcus again, and he continues to go along with it. And I do love they still included that somebody sneakily put some antlers on Patrick's head that he just never notices. And because like in the book, he sees one guy with him, and he's like, and take those antlers off, you look ridiculous. But then later somebody manages to put 2 pairs on Patrick's head, and he only notices when like a limo driver tells him about it. Which is great. But so Paul and Patrick arrange to have lunch, or should we say Paul and Marcus, because that's who Paul thinks he's with. Patrick arrives late, and he's like, come on, I'm a child of divorce, give me a break. And while they're eating, Patrick just tells Paul that he likes to dissect women, and Paul does not notice. He mentions Evelyn, and Paul says, yeah, she's got a great ass, and she goes out with that dork, Patrick Bateman, to which Patrick is just like smiling along with. But it's so interesting to get other people's view of him. Mm-hmm. Like Evelyn calls him the boy next door constantly, like everybody has this image of the most innocent man, a dork, a kiss ass. And I mean, in a way he's willing to say that he's a different man to talk to Paul Allen. But I guess it's just to get Paul Allen to trust him. And he's trying to learn about the mysterious Fisher account, which is such a big deal in the book. Like, he's like trying to find ways to not, like, he's talking about fish generally to get back to talking about the Fisher account. But he lures Paul back to his apartment, which he's already covered in like newspaper. And Paul's just drunk, drinking a Corona as Patrick, goes into a speech about Huey Lewis and the news, which sounds just like an article. Like he read an article and memorized it. 'Cause it's the most dry thing ever. As he's talking about it, and then he's like putting on a raincoat, and he's like dancing, and he starts playing Hip to Be Square, and Paul's just like, why do you have the the fashion section over here? Like, just is not getting it. And, Patrick comes up behind him all giddy with like an axe and just starts hacking him to death, which is totally off screen. We just see like the blood spray on his face. Very vivid detail in the book, however. But it's like this scene is not scary. It's silly.
And I guess it's scary because it is so silly. He just like runs at him with this hatchet, and he, hacks him up. And he says, try getting a reservation at Dorsia now, you stupid asshole. And it's really funny, but I love this scene because after the blood splatters all over his face, he just kind of freezes and it's over. And he just kind of goes into this like fugue state for a second. And then he's got to, get into action, get rid of the body. But the performance is really amazing. And I know it's like an iconic scene. Probably a lot of people have seen it already if you haven't seen the whole film. But I think the performance is really amazing.
Yeah, his energy is just like off the charts when he's doing his little dance, and then he's like, walking up behind him and stuff. And when Paul Allen's like, is that a raincoat? And he's like, yes, it is. It's just kind of like, ugh, what's happening? And so, now he goes to get rid of the body. And so he's just hauling his body with an obvious blood trail. And the doorman like looks up and just looks back down on his paper. He's just invisible in this world in a way. And he, puts the bag in in like a trunk, and Lewis Carruthers, his arch nemesis, walks by and is like, oh my gosh, where did you get that overnight bag? And he's just like, John Paul Gaultier, and like gets back into the taxi. He just hates this man so much. So he takes Paul's body back to Paul's own apartment, and here's a quote. He says, I have a moment of sheer panic when I realize Paul's apartment overlooks the park, and it's obviously more expensive than mine.
Yeah, love it.
Like, Like, that's what's upsetting. And he stages this idea that Paul has run off to London. So he grabs a suitcase, puts a bunch of clothes in there, and then changes the message on the answering machine. Because in the book, he says, like, our voices are similar enough, and just says, like, I've gone to London, and leaves. So this is when we meet the podcast's favorite man, Willem Dafoe. He plays Detective Kimball, who first, like, Jean comes in and is like, there's a Detective Kimball here to see you. And he's like, tell him I'm at lunch. And she's like, Patrick, it's 10 a.m. I think he knows you're in here. And so when Kimball walks in, he pretends to be on the phone having this actually pretty convincing conversation about whether this guy should tip the stylist. And my favorite part is when he's like, no, don't tip the owner, the style. Okay. All right. Bye. And he, is very affable with Kimball, and Kimball's also very affable. And it turns out that he's not even really like from the FBI or anything. He's just like a private detective that Paul Allen's wife has gotten, and that, his death's not even in the papers because they're trying to keep it hush hush. Or sorry, not his death, his disappearance. They do not think he died. They're just wondering where he is. And so he asks Patrick, what kind of man was Paul? And he says that, he's at a loss because, well, number one, he thinks that he was a closeted homosexual, but also that he was part of the whole Yale thing. And they just kind of have a little convo where, Patrick's just vaguely being like, he just did a lot of cocaine, wasn't really part of my crowd, and, but it's kind of like a paranoid conversation because Kimball's like, and where did he go to school? And he's like, don't you know this? And he's like, well, I'm just trying to see what you know. But you get no sense that Kimball's like suspicious of him or anything.
No, and I love it in the book because when he asks the question, what kind of man is Paul Allen? He's just like describes his clothes and like where he eats dinner and things like that. It's just, and the guy's like, no, like what kind of a person was he? And Patrick has no access to that at all.
Yeah, it's not anything he notices or thinks about. And also what's interesting is Kimball's like offering up so much information to him that lets Patrick decide already, like it's not like he's being, letting Patrick dig his own hole. He's like, oh, well, he would have disappeared on this day. Like we can talk at a later time, and Patrick lies that he was on a date with a woman named Veronica or something. And but they leave on good terms and they're going to talk again. So then we hear some screams, but it's just Patrick frantically doing crunches and watching the end of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, as you do. And so here is a pretty horrible moment in the book. But we get the first night with Christy and Sabrina. He is in a tux, and he finds like a woman, a prostitute on the street, and, gets her to come into his car. And, she's like, oh, well, I'm not really supposed to do this, but he gives her a lot of money. So she goes with him, and he tells her, your name is Christy. You will only answer to Christy. And while they're in the car, he calls up an escort service, asks for a blonde. This quote, Christy is also blonde. And, when she gets back to his apartment, he's like, clean your vagina, and just very like gross and like clinical. Like you just have to imagine what it would be like to be these women, and it would be the scariest thing you've ever been a part of. Because first there's this guy with all this money pulling up in a limousine, giving you $100. She seems very comfortable at first, like she's in this beautiful bathtub getting wine, but then he's like, clean your vagina. And he's like, no, bend over that way. Just nasty. And so then Sabrina, as he calls her, comes in, and, she's, to his dismay, she's not truly blonde. She's more of a dirty blonde. And, when he sits them down, he's just like, don't you want to know what I do? And Christy goes, no, not really. And he, gets the women to be posed where he wants them to do, and like, you know, says to Sabrina, like, why don't you dance a little? And this is where we get what, like, in the book, we'll just get a chapter of him just doing a music review. But in the movie, he's like doing this music review to them. It's like his little thing before he kills somebody in the movie is like, you know, becoming a BuzzFeed article about an album. And so, you know, they have a sex scene. You know, he wants the women to, you know, do stuff together, and then he has sex with them. He films it and he poses for himself in the mirror. But it actually ends at first without anything too untoward. And they all fall asleep together in the bed. And this woman, like Christy, kind of touches him and he's like, don't touch the watch. But then he gets up and he opens up his drawer, which is full of like horrific torture instruments like scissors, and he gets a coat hanger, and the women start to get ready to leave and he's like, we're not finished yet. Yeah. And then, but then it just jump cuts to them leaving, and they're clearly like rattled. They've got scratches on them, and he's giving them more money as they go out the door, but they're like rushing out of the door. And that is how it happens in the book too, is like, we don't know what he did, but we know that it was horrible. Which honestly, I guess I prefer. Like, like, I really prefer that kind of thing to like vivid detail. But I guess in a way that shows that this did happen, maybe.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, we can talk about it, but I mean, I think some things actually did happen. And I don't think it's like one way or the other. I think there are a couple of events that actually did happen, and I think this is one of them.
Yeah, because I mean, they leave basically in one, and we get like a real reaction from them of like disgust and like hatred towards him that we don't usually see from even his victims in a way. Yeah, and oh yeah, there's just like a scene while he's having sex where he's just looking at himself in the mirror and like flexing, and you know, Christy's just kind of looking at him like, a sicko. And he just really seems like a detestable man. Like, I feel like that scene when I first saw the movie, I was like, this guy sucks. I hate this guy.
But I mean, aside from that, it doesn't seem violent. I mean, it gets violent toward the end of the night, but I mean, the sex itself doesn't seem that bad. And so what? Yeah. He's like, you know, making faces at himself in the mirror, you know. In the book, it's a whole different animal.
Yeah. Very upsetting. So then we get the men, you know, all the dude bros talking, and they're discussing women, and, you know, they're talking about whether or not a good personality is important. One guy says like, first off, his words, not mine, folks. Like, you know, a woman who's got like a good personality or is talented, she's ugly, and she has to have that stuff to make up for the fact that she's so ugly. And Patrick's basically saying like, you know, well, what? Let's just say that there was a beautiful woman with a good personality, or, you know, had interesting things to say, to which they all go, but no woman has anything interesting to say. And they all high five. And this is in the book. They're constantly high-fiving, which is so funny. Like these boys, these like frat boys, basically, like, yeah, we got him. And so then Lewis Carruthers pops up, and he is like, well, fellas, you know, I also got a new business card. And he shows Patrick, and I mean, it's beautiful. The letters are like gold embossed. And this is like the worst thing Lewis could have done to him. Well, actually, I take that back. The worst thing is about to happen that he could have done. And so in the book, you know, Patrick's just thinking like, should I kill this guy? Like, he's just really like, I fucking hate this dude so much. You know, he's wondering like, would Courtney, because it's not that he likes Courtney as a person. He's just that she has the best body out of every woman that he knows. So he's like, would that push her into my arms if I killed Lewis? Like, I'm just going to do it. And so he goes into the bathroom when Lewis goes into the bathroom and reaches around Lewis's neck to strangle him. But Lewis turns around, sees him, and instead of going scared, he like thinks that Patrick's coming on to him and is basically like, oh my gosh, like, I know you've been looking at me. I feel the same way. I've noticed your hot body, you know? And this like deflates Patrick. It's almost like that scene in Little Shop of Horrors when, what's his name?
Bill Murray.
Bill Murray comes in to see the dentist and he's like, since he's so into it, he's like, oh, well, I don't want this guy, you know? And like, this was the last thing Patrick was expecting, was for Lewis to, one, you know, because like he even like lowers his hands and like Lewis puts them back on his neck and he's just like, oh, you know, he just like has to leave. He can't even kill the guy. He can't do it. And so he leaves and, you know, Lewis is like, where are you going? You know, and he's like, call me. And Patrick's just like, oh my fucking God. Like, he can't, this is the worst thing that could have ever happened. So he leaves. And Patrick is very homophobic, as you'll find in the book. Like, there's a scene where he's watching a pride parade and he's just like, the whole concept of gay pride is like insane to this man. He cannot even fathom that being a thing. And, you know, commits some horrific acts of violence towards gay people. And but this whole Lewis plot line is like kind of insane. I don't really know how I feel about it. Like, I think this scene is great, but later when Lewis is just really like throwing himself at him and like sobbing, I was like, what are we doing here? Like, why is this happening? Like, he's like following Patrick in the book and then like accosting him in public. I just felt kind of like, I don't really know what to think about this one. And he's like, let's run away together. I don't know. What did you think?
Well, I mean, women are throwing themselves at Patrick. And I mean, so
that's true.
Lewis thinks that he's had, you know, this opening where it's like, okay. And Bret Easton Ellis is gay. And, you know, I just, you know, imagine he was closeted. You know, he said, at the end of my audiobook, there was an interview with Bret Easton Ellis, and he said this was the most autobiographical novel he's ever written. And he goes, because this was me. You know, so yeah. So
okay. That's very interesting.
Yeah, so I bet like some kind of experience informed that character.
Okay. That actually makes me feel better about it. Because at first I was like, this is almost like silly, like in the book. It felt kind of silly, but I see more so now.
Well, and that's the most terrifying thing to Patrick, to be considered, you know, an attractive object of a gay man's affection. Like, that's the worst.
True. Whereas, like, he's only seeing women as like, and you know, objects.
And I think the movie is really funny because all the men do kind of look the same, and they're all they all style their hair in the same way, and they all kind of comment on nice tan, Bateman, you know, and just like they're always commenting on each other's bodies and stuff like that. But they're all supposedly straight, you know. It's very odd.
They're all super straight, yeah. The, like, I was saying to Alan, like, the metrosexual thing is fascinating to me, like, utterly fascinating. And okay, I will say my dad was obviously not, to my knowledge, a mass murderer. So I'm not saying in that way he reminds me of Patrick Bateman. But when Patrick Bateman would constantly be like, oh yeah, this was Brooks Brothers and stuff, that was my dad. Like, his closet was bigger than his wife's. Like, oh my God, the amount of clothes and shoes that he had, and was very like, it's just so fascinating to me, like, straight men up. Because I guess since it's in our American culture so stereotypically identified as like, oh, well, straight guys are slobs and like gay men are so fastidious. And to have a man be like, no, I only like women, but I do want men to appreciate the beautiful clothes I'm wearing, I think is very interesting. Because, I mean, but that is kind of how a lot of women dress. Like, when I, you know, identified as a woman and, like, put a lot of care into my clothes, I did not really care if a man thought that that was a good-looking outfit. If a girl complimented me, I'd be like, I did a good thing today, you know? Mm-hmm. So it is interesting, the peacocking we do for just the approval of our peers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true.
So Kimball's back at the office and he, you know, has, you know, some interesting details, which is that this whole, Paul Allen is in London. He's like, well, what's interesting is that somebody said that they saw Paul Allen at a restaurant in London, but it turns out he was thinking of this other guy, which is so funny because everybody's constantly calling Patrick the wrong name, or they're like, is that so-and-so? And he's like, no, so-and-so's over there. That's so-and-so. Because like you said, they all look exactly the same and talk the same. So why wouldn't they be mistaken? So they're going to have lunch in a week. So next we see Patrick doing coke in the bathroom of a club with Bryce. And this was the scene I was talking about. That was actually very early in the book. Bryce, because there's like a guy in the next stall over who's like telling them, he's like, I'm trying to do coke over here. And Bryce calls him the F slur. And then he's like, I'm sorry, steroids. Which is so funny. To just be like, sorry, it's the steroids. But then it's like the coke that they're doing is actually stevia or something.
Yes.
Which is, and Patrick's like, I'm sure if we do enough of it, we'll feel something. And so then they're talking with a model at the club. And Patrick says that he's into murders and executions, but she thinks that she hears mergers and acquisitions. And, they think that these women are stupid. And she says, you think I'm stupid, don't you? Because I'm a model. No, it's okay. I don't mind. There's something sweet about you. Again, so fascinating that everybody thinks of him as this sweet, harmless, boy next door. And so he takes her home. God only knows what happens to her, because the next day he's in his office playing with a lock of her hair that he just puts back into his pocket. And he's doing a crossword puzzle, just filling out the words bones and meat, which is so funny. And like Jean's like, oh, you need any help? And he's like, no. And he asks Jean out to dinner. It's really, and it seems kind of like a why the fuck not? I'll ask this girl out to dinner kind of thing. But she's so normal, she's like, well, I don't know, like we can go anywhere. And he's like, no, don't think about what I want. You pick where you want to go. And she suggests Dorsia, the one place he can't get a reservation in. And so he calls up Dorsia and he's like, yeah, I know it's short notice, but I'd like a table for two. And the guy on the phone says, sorry, we're all booked. And he's like, 2 at 9? Perfect. And the guy's like, no, I said, and he hangs up. And Jean's like, well, you didn't give them a name, Patrick. And he's like, they know me. And he tells her, and we'll want to change clothes before we go out. Negs her, basically. And I am sad that this scene was cut, because in the book, they do go to Dorsia, and it's like a sitcom almost. Like he hears a couple's name and he's like, that's us. So, well, first off, how are you? I'm just not even for the pot. I'm just wondering as a Mac, how are you?
Yeah, I'm okay. I got a little headache, and so I took some Tylenols, so hopefully that'll knock it out. And then my heart was racing when I was lying down.
What the fuck?
I got my propanolol right here at the ready, so I just took a couple of those puppies. So
I'm sorry your heart was racing.
I don't know what that's all about. I mean, going back to school is probably what it's about, but I can't, it hasn't even started. So, I tried to work and I couldn't focus, and it's just one of those days, I guess.
Yeah. Well, kind of had like a little moment earlier. Like, do you ever just feel like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing with my life? I had one of those, and then I was like, get over it. So I think I got over it. But yeah, and the shower, for some reason, is just the place where every time I get into the shower, my brain's like, all right, so time to panic. So I don't, like, every time I get into the shower, it's like, hey, remember that person that you have unfinished business with or something? Like, I was thinking about this roommate I had years ago, and I was just like, man, she was a fucking bitch. Like, that was just in my head, like, just thinking like, man, and fuck her. She never apologized for this thing. And then I got out of the shower, I was like, Why am I thinking
Yeah.
about this? So,
Well, if you ever figure it out, let me know, because that happens with me too. Usually it's lying in
hmm.
bed and I'm just like, why am I thinking of things from like 1991? Like it doesn't, it's in the past.
I wonder if it's because maybe in our day to day, we're not like taking enough time to like chill. And so then that's a moment where your brain can be like,
Mm,
all right, I've been sitting on this. Here it is. And,
yeah.
but for us, we're like, no, I just want to relax.
um,
But guess who's not relaxing? Jean. So
Gene.
Jean heads over to Patrick's apartment and Patrick offers her some sorbet, and we get a flash of a severed head wrapped up in a bag in the freezer. And, they're just having a little conversation. She's totally oblivious as he's like fondling various instruments as if he's wondering, like, what should I use on this to kill Jean? But he almost doesn't seem like it's like part of him wants to kill and then part of him is like can't get into it in a way. And like he grabs some duct tape and she's like, what do you got there? And he's like, tape. I need it to tape something. I don't know. He just puts it away. And so she asks him, Patrick, have you ever wanted to make someone happy? And he's behind her pointing a nail gun at the back of her head. She's totally oblivious. And he goes, I guess I just want to have a meaningful relationship with someone special. But then Evelyn calls and, she's like, hey, my man, are you out with some trollop or something? Like, come on, come meet us for drinks. And it totally kills the vibe. And, Jean makes some comment about like, I always try to get with emotionally unavailable men. And it's like, girl, run. Like you have very bad, perceptive skills of perception. They don't exist. And Patrick says, I think if you stay, something bad might happen. I think I might hurt you. And Jean takes this more so in a way of like, how a fuck boy might talk of like, I'm just, you shouldn't get close to me. But he quite literally means like, I might like stick a nail through the back of your head. And she says, I don't want to get bruised, which I think is such a sweet thing to say. I think it's just such a perfect line that shows the disparity of where they are in that moment. Like bruising would be the least of Jean's concerns. And so she leaves, but as she leaves, again, it enforces just how also beneath him she is by, getting into secretary mode and reminding him that he has a lunch with Kimball tomorrow. But thank God that she left because Jean is the most normal person in this movie. And I think Detective Kimball, I think he's also pretty normal. So then we get, excuse me, I skipped something. So then we see that Patrick is extremely sweaty and sad. And it turns out that, when it turns out that he was with Paul the night of Paul's disappearance, and because Marcus Halberstram says that he wasn't with Paul. This is according to Kimball. So everything's kind of in Patrick's mind crashing down on him, but Kimball is still not that like suspicious of him.
No.
He just kind of is like, oh, it just must have been some like misunderstanding. And he even says
so
like,
crazy.
He's like, yeah, just figure, like, he says something like, figure out where you were that night. Like just letting him think of another lie. So, but again, I think it also is kind of like, it's either, oh, is Patrick just invincible or is Paul just quite literally not dead? Right. Who's to say?
Well, what do you think?
I think that he did not kill Paul.
Yeah.
Based off of what happens later.
I don't think he killed Paul either. I think he fantasized about killing Paul. He fantasizes about killing a lot of people, but I don't think he killed Paul.
No. And the book does a lot more of like breadcrumbing this idea, but there's all these little things here or there that puts the idea into your mind that, I mean, he definitely has some sort of brain issue, but you know, at one point he talks about like, oh, the topic of the Patty Winters show was like dissociative identity disorder, or that his favorite movie is Body Double and stuff like this. Like I think, you know, Bret Easton Ellis is trying to put it into your head that he doesn't know what reality is.
Right.
Yeah. So then we get the second night with the prostitute Christy. When he pulls up on her at the same spot, she doesn't want to go with him because she says that she had to go to the emergency room last time. So yeah, I think this lends credence to the idea that this was real. And, but he gives her a check for $1,000, which today would be $2,829. And it's so sad because like this woman knows that she should not go with him, but she's just so desperate that it's too good of an offer to refuse. And in the book, Patrick says like, oh, I don't care that I've written her this check because I know it's never going to get cashed. And so they're going to go to his new apartment, Paul Allen's apartment, and he brings Elizabeth, who is an old friend of Patrick's that does not realize Christy's a sex worker because she keeps asking her stuff like, you know, where do you vacation? And like, you know, what do you do? And it's just so awkward. Like Christy looks so just pained the whole time. And Elizabeth is also very unaware of the danger she's in. Whereas like Christy knows that like, she's just kind of like, I need to get out. Like the whole time she's thinking, okay, I shouldn't have come here. And like, Christy, compliments like the apartment. She's like, wow, your new apartment's really nice. And Patrick's like, well, it's not that nice.
I love that line.
Me too. And Patrick has drugged Elizabeth's wine, and so she starts getting, you know, just really crazy. He starts talking about Whitney Houston and wants Elizabeth and Christy to have sex in front of him. And at first Elizabeth is like refuses and is like, Patrick, you're making me uncomfortable. But it jump cuts to like them making out because she's been drugged. And so then Patrick is like fucking Elizabeth, and Christy tries to escape. And when she looks, she sees that like the sheets are starting to turn red. And then Patrick's face comes up and his like mouth is bloody. So, you know, we know what happens in the book, but in the movie, you just know he's getting violent. And so now she tears off. She's trying to escape. And when she runs through the apartment, she opens up a closet and finds like two women's like dead bodies, like in a bag in the closet. She's screaming and running around, and like the whole, it's like a nightmare apartment. Like every door she opens, there's something fucked up. Is that where it's like die yuppie scum or something? Yeah, on the wall. And so now Patrick starts chasing her naked with a chainsaw, which is just so ridiculous. I mean, like there's blood all over his face, his buff ass body like running with this chainsaw, and she's like running down this ginormous flight of stairs, which is such a cool shot overhead of her trying to escape. And he's like aiming the chainsaw down and then drops it, and it perfectly hits her and kills her, which I don't think could ever like, I think you would still be injured, but I don't think that's how like physics works. You know, it wouldn't go into you, but I think that's all purposeful. Like this is just so ridiculous. There's no way it could be real. And cause also it's like, what, is there nobody else in this building? Like nobody's hearing the woman scream. Cause she's like, you know, banging on doors, trying to get help. There's a chainsaw being revved. But in Patrick's mind, she's dead.
Right.
And it is just like so much worse in the book. Like this was what I was talking about of, you know, indescribable stuff. And the physics, I think this is such a great interpretation, I think, of the book, because the physics are wrong in this scene in the book, but in like a totally different way.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. This is what I was talking about some of the images I can't get out of my head. They're going to live there forever.
Same.
But yeah, I don't think what he describes in the book is physically possible. And there's a lot of times when he's killing women, like he's using acid. I'm just like, where is he getting acid from? And they're not screaming or anything. He's just like, you know, eroding the skin around their mouth or something. And like, I mean, it's a fantasy. It's like what a 12-year-old would think, you know, about torturing somebody. Like,
Yeah.
there's
I don't
no
think,
way.
no. And yeah, like bodies like caving in ways that they can't do.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think for adapting to a screen, you know, running around with a chainsaw is, I think, just like a perfect idea. It gets that idea across without being traumatizing. Like, this might be traumatizing for some, but I think if you like horror, is whatever. Like, oh yeah, chainsaw, whatever. So our next scene, Patrick breaks up with Evelyn in the middle of a restaurant, and you know, he says, like, she's like, why? Like, what's wrong? And he's like, well, I have to engage in homicidal behavior, and like, I can't hold it back anymore. And you know, she's like, wow, you're really serious. Like, what do I need to do? Like, what do I have to do to fix this? And he's just like, I have to go. I have to go return some tapes, which is his like go-to line to leave.
Yeah. Oh, I did want to say there's like a very 1987 coded things in this, like that looking at it as a historical document, it's kind of interesting. Like there's a scene where Courtney says she's at home and she's waiting for Lewis to call her. And yeah, we used to do that because there was no way to, you know, there's even like pre-pagers, or, you know, maybe if there were pagers, doctors had them and that's it. But you would wait around and wait for a phone call, which seems crazy now. But oh, there was something else, but I forgot what it was.
Or like call waiting, or like a voicemail being played, like, you know.
Yeah. Something about Evelyn. I can't remember. Oh, it doesn't matter. But anyway, I like the line when she's like, but my friends are your friends and your friends are my friends. And he's like, you could keep them.
Yeah, you can have them. I've thought about it. You can have them. Like, he's like, I do not give a fuck.
Oh, returning the videotapes. That's what it was. That was the other 1987 coded thing. I mean, you would have to return them within a certain period of time or you'd get fined.
Yeah.
And so it's a ridiculous excuse that he keeps using, but you know, it's very funny because it is sort of the time.
There's actually a lot about returning videotapes. Like, he's thinking about, like, in the book, his membership, how many he can get out in a month and stuff like these, which I love, because when somebody will ask him, like, what's on your mind, he starts going into this stream of consciousness of just like, how many videotapes can I rent out? What should I wear tomorrow? You know, it's like the things he's thinking of are so stupid in a way.
Yeah.
So then we have like another very trippy scene where he's at an ATM and he sees like this stray kitten and picks it up, and he looks at the ATM and it just says, feed me a stray cat. And it's so funny because he looks at it and just kind of starts like putting it towards like where it takes the card. And this old woman walks up and is like, what are you doing? And he just pulls out a gun and shoots her. And so then there's cop cars chasing him, and it's so funny because in his head it's almost as if like it's like he's in a dream and he's realizing he's in a dream in a way, because he just kind of like looks at the cops and takes out the gun and like just starts shooting at them, but he wins and he makes a car explode and he's just like, whoa, okay. And then he turns and he runs. He enters like an office building, shoots the guy working there, but then he realizes though it looks just like his, it's the wrong office building, runs to his, doesn't shoot that guy. I think that's because in the book, that's what he says is like, he enters an office and then he's like, oh my God, this is the wrong office building.
That's okay. That makes a lot of sense because the doorman is like, hey, Mr. Smith, burning the midnight oil. And so he doesn't, again, he's like unrecognizable. He's just like every other, suit. So that's really funny. Okay. I thought it was that he ran into the same place twice.
Oh.
And the first time he shot the doorman, second time he didn't. But.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it still could be because it's not spelled out in the movie. It does look exactly the same. Yeah. And he runs up to his office and there's like a helicopter outside and he calls up his lawyer and begins confessing. Oh yeah, and he shoots a custodian. It's so funny because it's almost like an afterthought. He like runs back and like shoots him and then goes up to his office. So he calls his lawyer and starts confessing. He's like, I've killed maybe 20, maybe 40 people. And he starts describing things we haven't seen in the movie, but do happen in the book, which I thought was a nice touch. Like talking about trying to eat somebody, like all the homeless people he killed, says he killed an F slur, like all this stuff. And the death of Paul Allen. And then he says, I guess I'm a pretty sick guy. It's so funny because it is somebody trying to be normal in a way, like what his idea of what somebody would say confessing to murders. Like he just has no concept of what being a human is almost.
Yeah.
So he then goes back to Paul Allen's apartment and has like this, surgical mask on because he's prepared for the stench of all the bodies. But when he walks in, there's a woman showing a couple around and the whole thing's been like renovated and repainted. And there's no bodies. And he, just kind of sidles up to the closet where we saw girls' bodies hanging, but it's just been repainted and there's nothing there. And he's very, troubled by this. And so the realtor, and I really love this actress. I feel like she played this character so well of, you don't really know how much she knows, but she does have a very, all the women we see in this movie are so based off of their behavior, trying to be subservient to him, but here's a very strong woman, I feel, being like, what are you doing here? And he doesn't know how to handle it. And she asks oh, did you see the ad for this in the Times? And he goes, no, yeah, I did. There was no ad in the Times. And she says, I think you should go. Because, he asks, I'm looking for Paul Allen. Does Paul Allen live here? She just goes, no, I think you should go. Don't make any trouble, please. And don't come back. And he goes, I won't. And he leaves. And it's really great to see him in this position, I feel. He's just so freaked out. And meanwhile, we see back at the office, since Patrick is out, Jean goes to his office and opens up his journal, and she just slowly starts discovering all of these drawings he's done of just, stuff that he is imagining he's done, brutally hacking up women, shooting somebody in the face, all this crazy stuff. And it is very upsetting. And poor sweet Jean is horrified. And then meanwhile, we see Patrick meeting his friends, and he runs into Harold, his lawyer, who he confessed to over the phone, who first calls him Davis, doesn't even recognize him. And Patrick's like, oh, well, did you get my voicemail? And he goes, oh yeah, that was so funny. Bateman killing those women, Bateman killing Paul Allen, it was a pretty good joke, but it had a fatal flaw. Patrick is a lightweight and is spineless. And Patrick is just I'm Patrick. I'm your client. That was me. And I did kill Paul Allen. And Harold, keeps trying to walk away, but he's like, no, I swear it was me. I was telling the truth. And he gets suddenly very serious. And he's like, I don't think this is funny. And I know that that's not possible. He's like, why? He's like, because I had dinner with Paul Allen twice in London. Dun, dun, dun. And he just, brushes past. And again, he still doesn't think he's talking to Patrick Bateman after all this. Like,
Right.
which I do, like, I get, again, why they had that whole monologue in the beginning, but I feel like it's so perfect when it happens in the book because, like, if this was happening to you all the time, I feel like you would feel like, who am I? What am I? Even if
Yeah.
I'm screaming my name at somebody, they see somebody else. And so he just returns to the table and there's a door behind him which says, "This is not an exit," which is the final line of the book. But here is his final monologue, which is so great. He says, "There are no more barriers to cross. All I have in common with the uncontrollable and the insane, the vicious and the evil, all the mayhem I have caused and my utter indifference toward it, I have now surpassed. My pain is constant and sharp, and I do not hope for a better world for anyone. In fact, I want my pain to be inflicted on others. I want no one to escape. But even after admitting this, there is no catharsis. My punishment continues to elude me, and I gain no deeper knowledge of myself. No new knowledge can be extracted from my telling. This confession has meant nothing." So good.
Pretty good.
And then a standing ovation. Yeah. It's like moments like that where you feel kind of like, why am I kind of relating to this guy? Or like, why is this, it's speaking to me?
Well, I think we were just talking about it before. I think we all have these existential crises. We don't really talk about them a whole bunch, but there's a whole school of philosophy built around this idea of just being alienated from yourself and from your fellows, from your environment, and, from the work that
Mm,
you do, and just not knowing what you can rely on, especially if you don't believe in God. If you don't believe in God, then what does anything mean and what does anything matter? And yeah,
mm,
you can go a little bit crazy thinking about all those questions. And so I think it was definitely a nod to No Exit, which is a novel by a play by John Paul Sartre. So
mm. What is the play about?
just about this idea where you can't escape your fellow man, and there's
Oh.
just a lot of Sartre had this really great quote, "Hell is other people," which I really loved when I was like a freshman in college. I thought that was like the best thing I'd ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, well, people, are flawed just like we are. So you can't rely on them either.
Yeah. That just made me think like something that I think is such a good part of the story and in the movie is portrayed very well is like that he has no connection with nature either because they only show the most concrete parts of New York. So there's no trees
Yeah.
ever. And there's not even any like, if there's plants in his room, they're not, you don't notice them. I don't think there are. Like,
I don't
there's
think
nothing
so.
like
Yeah.
that. And I mean, in the book, there's a lot of like animal death. So, he's not in tune with any sort of nature at all.
Until he goes to the beach
That's true.
with what's her face, Evelyn, but then he gets bored.
Yeah.
He can only stand it for so long.
And he really
So
tries. He puts
yeah, he
a good
does.
try in.
And when he's with Jean in the book, he does experience, I think, happiness. He
Hmm.
says he can't feel that, but I think he does with Jean, but it's fleeting. He can't hang on to it.
And I think what is kind of special in the book with him and Jean is like, again, he's not a likable character, but in a way, I feel like he knows that there's something pure with Jean that he does
Mm-hmm.
like and does find interesting. And so he doesn't want to be close to her. He's like, I'm just going to ruin that too. And in a way, that's
Yeah.
some cool self reflection on his part.
Yeah. He's so evil
Yeah, he's so
in the
evil.
book. I mean, the animal stuff is really, really rough. And, I think it just goes into this whole idea of somebody being psychotic and just like, you know, that idea. Usually it's like with kids that torture or kill animals. That's a bad sign
Yeah.
if kids are doing that. So, but, do you think well, in the novel, I don't think he blinded the homeless man,
I don't think he did.
but in the movie, I think he killed him.
I think so too. And I mean, I could see him in the book having killed like a homeless person or like, a sex worker or something. Like, I think in the book, it's so good that, because in the book, the man that he kills in the movie, he blinds, but then later it's like we see that man again, but he has a sign up, that says, "Oh, I lost my sight in Vietnam" or something. And like, clearly, I think he has just fantasized about like, what if I did that to him? But he doesn't know this. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That actor was really huge on The Wire.
Oh, really? Who was he?
Oh gosh, I can't remember his name, but he worked for Aidan Gillen's character, trying to get him elected in I think it's the 5th season.
Okay. I don't remember him, but I feel like I only remember the first season. Or wait, I might have not even made it there.
Yeah. He didn't even vote for like the guy who was trying to get elected.
Oh.
He voted for the black guy. Oh man, so funny.
Yeah, I think this movie and book is very good. I think it's so poignant. And I think, what we were just talking about of like, there's all these distractions. And I think that Bret Easton Ellis, the fact that obviously he calls it American Psycho, I think is so specific and true to our culture and how we try to find meaning, in the things we get, but not in the things that would actually give you any sort of satisfaction.
Yeah. And it's just taken to this like insane degree, especially in the book where he's talking about every piece of clothing that he has and the restaurants and how much things cost. And
he's only obsession. Connecting with people to like one up them about, stuff that they both have or something.
Right. And I thought it was funny. I think I cut it out of the trivia, but Rolex didn't want their name associated with the movie. So that's why he has to say, "Don't touch the watch" instead of "Don't touch the Rolex."
That's fair. Oh, something we forgot to mention. It is kind of startling to have this book be not written today, but to have Donald Trump be mentioned the sheer number of times he is mentioned in this book. Like every other thing about is like, even to get him to like something, people will be like, well, Donald Trump liked this place. So, or like Donald Trump likes you too. So that's why we're going to see him. And they are obsessed with him. And it's just very weird.
Yes. That's a really good point. Yeah, I think that's in one of the Letterboxd reviews. But I forgot about that part. Yeah, it's so jarring. It's just like, oh no.
He didn't even know. He didn't even know the future.
So I guess Patrick Bateman would be about 60 today.
He definitely would have voted for him.
Where do you think Patrick would be?
Dead.
You think so?
Yes, I don't think this man would be alive. The fact that he was losing it this much, the fact that I'm 2 years older than Patrick Bateman is a bit strange. Feels weird. And I think he'd be dead in some way or another. Probably maybe overdosed on something. He was on a lot of drugs at all times.
Yeah, but didn't smoke and like really hated that. I thought that was kind of funny.
Except for cigars. He loved him a cigar.
Yes. Yep, that's true. Just interesting the lines that we draw.
He had the gall to call just smoking cigarettes a nasty habit. It's like, buddy, you got quite a few of those. Well, here's some trivia. Looking for a way to create the character of Patrick Bateman, Christian Bale stumbled onto a Tom Cruise appearance on The Late Show with David Letterman from 1993. According to co-writer and director Mary Herron, Bale saw in Cruise this very intense friendliness with nothing behind the eyes, and Bale subsequently based the character of Bateman on that. Interestingly, Tom Cruise is actually featured in the novel. He lives in the same apartment complex as Bateman, who meets him in an elevator and gets the name of Cocktail from 1988 wrong, calling it Bartender. And it's like one of the most awkward moments in the whole book of like, he keeps trying to talk to Tom Cruise and Tom Cruise is so obviously like leave me alone. He moved after that. The single biggest cost on the film was purchasing the rights to the various songs used throughout. And now that's some dedication, I think, to the source material, that they were like, we got to do it. In Dexter from 2006, Dexter Morgan uses Patrick Bateman's name as an alias to obtain M99 to incapacitate his victims. I feel like Dexter wouldn't like Patrick, though, because, he doesn't kill the sickos that deserve it, which is my favorite cope that serial killers use, which will become very pertinent in our next movie. But it's the most ridiculous, like, well, I only killed bad guys. Get over yourself. For Willem Dafoe's scenes, Mary Herron instructed him to play each one in 3 different styles. 1 as if he is suspicious of Patrick Bateman, 2 as if he has no clue as to Bateman's guilt, and 3 as if he is undecided. I love that. He was like, you got it.
Well, so funny, and I don't know if this is just because of my own age or whatever, but like Justin Theroux is in this movie, and I don't think he is half as attractive in this film as he is now.
Who is he again?
Bryce.
Oh, yeah. I mean, part of it is that hair was so disgusting. Like the amount of grease and gel in that man's hair was like, ugh. That's all I could think of when I looked at him. I was like, I know your hair is crinkly. Well, briefly, what does Letterboxd have to say about it? Blobfish_USA gave it a half star. 12-year-old boy's favorite movie. Which could be true. Honestly, yeah. I mean, that's fair. There are, unfortunately, I think a lot of people who don't see it as satire, who are like, Patrick Bateman is a very cool guy, which is wrong. Emily L. Goyen gave it a half star. Maybe I missed something, but this is dog shit. The half star is for the actual good acting from Christian Bale, but theirs is nothing more than that. I disagree, but I respect your opinion. Henrique AGS gave it a half star. Horrible.
Horrible.
Horrible. Mr. Maroon gave it 5 stars. Is that Donald Trump's car? I love that there is an actual American Psycho in this film. Joshington, D.C. gave it 5 stars. This is such a funny fucking movie. A rare movie that's better than the book. And I love the fucking book too. Even though I know it's all open to interpretation and there is no definitive answer, I still feel like this movie is widely misunderstood, especially by legions of bad, dumb boys. Remaking this is something an asshole would do. Now there is a remake in the works, but is that I don't think that's a bad thing, because also I looked and it's not a remake of this movie. It's a different interpretation of the book. That's fine. We can all do things. So I would only disagree with that. And actually, I would disagree about, like, here's my take on, like, book v movie. It's like, I think the movie is more enjoyable than the book, but that's because it's palatable. And I don't think that's what the point of the book is. So it does do a great job of making an unpalatable thing easy to stomach, but that's quite literally not what Bret Easton Ellis was going for. So it kind of undermines his whole point. And I do think if you read the book after watching the movie, expecting it to be just like the movie, you'll be disappointed. Mm-hmm. But reading the book and then seeing the movie the first time in a few years, it made me love the movie so much more. Yes. Because I see how much Mary Harron, I think, loved the book. And yeah.
It's like a love letter to the book.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think if you can take it, it'll really increase your enjoyment of the film.
For sure. And I think they're important things that he's saying. It's not, I like, again, if reading that kind of stuff would like totally turn your stomach, don't read it. But I think it's so popular for a reason. And I think it's brilliant, in my opinion. MMJD10 gave it 5 stars. Amazing movie. The ending is one of the best I've seen. It can be interpreted as multiple different conclusions on whether he killed them or if it's all in his head. Best representation of insanity I've ever seen.
Aside from The Lighthouse.
Yes. And yeah, I mean, I guess if you are a person who literally has like psychotic tendencies, I could see being like offended. I don't know what that's like, to actually deal with stuff like that. So I'm sure I wouldn't want to be portrayed as an evil human being for having like a real mental disorder. But I feel like I'm kind of a crazy person. I certainly take drugs for it. So I would say I enjoy the depiction. Like it makes me feel a little bit seen. Well, how would we rate it? Rolexes?
Sure, Rolexes.
I give it 5 Rolexes.
Yeah, I thought you would, and I would too.
Nice.
I think it's a great film.
Yeah. What have we learned?
Oh boy. Well, Jean, her instincts were correct. I feel like we say this a lot on this podcast, but if you feel like something is off, it is.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be nice. You can just leave.
You can quit, you can just go. And I think Christy should have trusted. I mean, again, it's a hard thing. She definitely needed that money, but like, if somebody shows you who they are, they're going to do it again. So
that's right.
Especially if they like hurt you physically.
I know. Poor thing.
I know. And, be careful. Don't be chasing fulfillment through the things that you own.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That road does not lead to good places.
No.
No.
Would we watch it again? Yes.
Yeah.
And do you have a favorite scene and or kill?
Oh, brother. Paul Allen's death scene is definitely up there. Now that I understand what's going on in the shootout scene, I think I like that too, where he goes into one office building and it's just like a carbon copy of the one right next door to it.
Yeah.
I just like that. That is very efficient storytelling. I just didn't understand what was happening, and I was going to rewind it, and then I thought, well, but even if I got it wrong, I think it would be, a good moment in the film. What about you?
Yeah, I would say, that whole scene is great because we forgot to mention in the book, he starts talking in third person during this scene, which is one of my favorite parts in the whole book. Because it's just immediate, like Patrick starts doing this, Patrick does this, Patrick thinks this, and he talks often of thinking of life as a movie. And I think if you've grown up watching a lot of movies and not living a lot of life, you can make the mistake of doing that. And I've definitely done that before, where thinking like movies are documentaries and not like interpretations of life, that if you have not lived, you will not understand that. And so that spoke to me. And I just love his face when he sees "Feed me a stray cat," and he just like slowly like pushes the cat towards the ATM. Is like so funny. So maybe that, specifically that scene, and just the old woman being like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Oh, that is just so insane. I love it.
Who wins the You Fool Award?
Jean.
Yeah.
Or Christy, too.
Yeah. Poor sweet Jean and Christy. And I'll say fake Paul Allen, because I don't think he's dead, but if somebody sits you down and there's newspaper everywhere and they don't have a dog, get out. Leave.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, that's another thing about what have we learned. Be careful who you get drunk around.
Yes.
Or like get altered around.
Or accept drinks from.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah. Be real careful with that. So yeah, I think the women who trust Patrick are the fools.
Yeah, and looks can be deceiving. Which
can they ever?
What they kept this out, but it was such an interesting conversation where Patrick says that to Jean, and she's like, "I disagree." It's like, oh, you of all people shouldn't. And it's so funny because Patrick's like, "Interesting. Tell me more."
All right, Memoir of a Murderer. The short plot summary from IMDb says, a former serial killer with Alzheimer's fights to protect his daughter from her psychotic boyfriend. This was directed by Won Shin-yun, screenplay by Hwang Jo-yun and Won Shin-yun, based on A Murderer's Guide to Memorization by Kim Yong-ha, starring Sol Kyung-gu, Kim Nam-gil, Kim Sol-hyun, and Ol Da-soo. Release date was the 6th of September, 2017, and it has a running time of 118 minutes or 128 minutes with the director's cut, but we watched the theatrical cut. What did you think about this runtime, Mac?
It's so tough because I really don't want to like rag on this movie because there's a lot I did like about it, but then by the end, there was a lot I really did not like about it. And so I think if you give me more time in the movie to think about the things I don't like about your movie, you're making some mistakes. So I think if it had been shorter, I wouldn't have had to work, or like, you got to just throw it at me and then I won't even think about the things that to me don't make sense. But so again, I will say it's not because it wasn't beautiful or well acted, but it's because I had a lot of time to start being like, wait a second, this shit don't make no sense.
Okay, we open on a man emerging from a tunnel. He seems disoriented and he has his shoes on the wrong feet. Cut to the police station where daughter Yun-hee fetches the man who is having trouble with his memory. She gives him a dictaphone and a locket to help him. The body of a second woman is found, and Byung-soo, the man, fears he has killed her. Flashback to Byung-soo's childhood. Father was physically abusive. Byung-soo eventually killed him and got away with it, so he decided that there were certain people who deserved to die. He would kill them and bury the bodies in a bamboo grove.
That was such a tough scene. Like, oh my God, that like really got my heart. Like, and I do enjoy that there was like a very specific reason why this man is the way that he is, and it's like accurate to like life. So I felt like that scene, as hard as it was like one of my favorite parts of the whole movie.
Yeah. So in the present, he is a vet and he sees the lives of animals as the same as the lives of people. But one day he makes a mistake and accidentally kills a cat. After that, he uses the dictaphone to help him remember.
Michelle.
Michelle. So sad.
And he was so sad about it too. I felt for him. Like he was like, that's the last straw.
Kind of the justification is kind of funny too. Like it's okay to kill people because he saves the lives of animals.
It's like, no, I don't know if that tracks.
According to his daughter, he doesn't react to emotion. He says he doesn't have emotions, but he reacts to humor. It's just the timing is the problem. And I love that because my whole life I've laughed at stuff that other people don't laugh at, or I'll like laugh after everybody else is done laughing. So I could totally relate to Byung-soo in this regard.
I feel that too. Or like, yeah, especially laughing when other people aren't. Like there have been times where I'm just like dying at something and then you realize nobody else is laughing and you're like, sorry.
Oh my God. The worst time was I watched this movie called Triangle of Sadness with Mr. C. And I was basically on the floor, just like roaring with laughter. I just thought it was so funny. And he was just like looking at me like, what?
What's wrong with you?
But I think I was right. His last murder was 17 years ago, and after the murder, he was in a severe car accident which left him with vascular dementia. He is told his memories will flicker, and eventually he will lose all his memories.
Now, this bothered me a little bit because I was like, what the hell is 17-year delayed? Like the fact that it was... Yeah, that I was like, that's not real, right? Like that doesn't, they're like, oh, it probably was this thing that happened. I thought, oh, okay, this thing that happened like 2 weeks ago. Oh, 17 years ago? Like, what?
Yeah, my grandmother lived with Alzheimer's for 12 years.
Oh my goodness.
I wasn't super close to her. So all the times I saw her, she seemed kind of the same. And that was that she could only live in the present moment, which is not a bad way to be, actually. But I'm not sure. In the modern day, he rear ends another car. He sees blood leaking from the trunk. He takes a sample of the blood on his handkerchief. The other driver says it is a deer in his trunk and wants to just forget it. But Byung-soo insists on giving him his business card.
I'm like, why? Why did you do that? If you're like, I think this is a human, I'll give the guy my... Like, what? What?
Yeah. Not a bright, shining moment. Byung-soo reports the car anonymously. We find out that the man Byung-soo rear-ended is a cop. So the tip from Byung-soo is laughed off.
Oh, this is one of the scariest plot ideas to me, especially with how it happens in reality too, of the people that you can go to being the only people who will also never believe you is like, oh, horror.
Oh, man. Yeah. Taeju, that's the cop, calls Byung-soo as a cop. Byung-soo starts to investigate the murder. The chief of police, Byung-man, is his friend.
And we've seen this actor, right?
Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Done a lot of stuff. Yeah. Very seasoned character actor, Ol Da-soo. Taeju befriends Eun-hee, that's the daughter. No. She trusts him because he shows up to Byung-soo's vet office with a kitten, and he is a cop. So,
and he's very handsome.
And he is very handsome. Why wouldn't she trust him? Byung-soo attacks Eun-hee, mistaking her for another woman. He begins to wonder if he only imagined the collision and if he committed the murders. He wants to go into a home or a hospital, but his daughter will not hear of it.
She is so sweet. Like, he's telling her, like, well, you're going to have to change my diapers. And she's like, well, you changed mine. So, and I'm just like, oh, you're such a good kid. Like, she had no character flaws. She was just the perfect daughter.
Yeah. At the Maria convent, Byung-soo asks a nun about an old folks' home and tells the nun about his dementia. She says she prays for him every day, but he reveals in voiceover that he killed her father. Now, did you know what the relationship was at this point?
Yes, that he was, or that she was his sister. Like,
Uh-huh.
that, because, yeah, him being like, oh, I wonder if she knew that I've killed more people than her father. I thought, like, well, who could that be? And then I was like, oh, the sister.
Byung-soo takes a poetry class. He hates the instructor and fantasizes about killing him. And I'm with good reason. The guy is a pompous ass.
But
And,
all the cougars love him.
oh, man. Jo Yeon-ju pursues him, just a woman from the poetry class.
She is so funny. She's like running after him, like not taking any hint at all.
I was just wondering if she like fell down running in those heels, like, on the take, because I would for sure. She's going pretty fast. In one of his memory lapses, he sees Eun-hee with Tae-ju. Tae-ju realizes Byung-soo has memory issues.
And the man playing Byung-soo is like so good at this.
Yes.
It's kind of scary.
Yeah, it's really, really good. And I think this is a nice moment because Tae-ju like immediately clocks what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty great. Byung-man tells the story of the cigarette shop girl who disappeared 17 years ago. He wonders if the maiden killer, the killer who's active right now, is the same as the killer 17 years ago. Byung-soo says he doubts it.
This has got to be so awkward to know that your friend, you like, and this moment I really loved because like Byung-man, we learned that this has kind of like dictated the rest of his life, is this girl being killed, and that he quits smoking, but he keeps a pack and he's going to smoke it when he catches her killer. And just thinking of like Byung-soo, presumably being the one who killed her, and that like the after effects that somebody's death can have on people that weren't even in their family, and how much maybe he doesn't even realize that he's the ripple effects of all the people he's affected. I thought that was just such a great way to show that, of like this one guy who just knew this woman casually thinks about this every day and now is like an old man,
That's a really good point. Yeah. Byung-soo puts it together that Min Tae-ju is the same guy he got in a collision with and is a cop and is Eun-hee's boyfriend.
Gotta be the worst day ever to realize this.
Oh my God. Byung-soo gives his bloody handkerchief to Byung-man and threatens Tae-ju to stay away from Eun-hee. He says he doesn't care who Tae-ju kills so long as it isn't Eun-hee. But if Tae-ju comes near her, Byung-soo will tear him apart and bury him in the ground.
I love this scene. He's so scary for a second. I was like, oh my God, this actor's so good.
Yeah, he's really fantastic. He asks Eun-hee to stay away from Tae-ju for 1 week. He tracks down Tae-ju, but then he has a memory episode and he drinks his own pee.
I was screaming at the screen. I was like, no, no, no. When he picks up that bottle, I was like, no.
But I don't care if you have memory issues. I'm pretty sure you'd remember, like, that's
this
not water.
And it's warm as hell. It smells like pee. Like,
yeah.
I guess that's how focused he is.
Didn't like it. Tae-ju and Eun-hee want to get married. Eun-hee is fed up with Byung-soo. Very sad.
But because she's got like marks around her neck and he's like, oh, she did this to you. And she's like, no, you did this to me. And oh, that's so tough.
Heartbreaking. The nun comes to visit Byung-soo. It turns out she is his sister. Byung-soo awakes to find himself zip-tied. Tae-ju is reading his journal and altering the entries.
No!
Oh my God. How diabolical is that?
I know.
He says he read the diary and so swapped out the handkerchief for one with deer's blood on it.
Those zip ties also seemed so painful. Like when he was like, straining against them. I was like, wow, how did they do this? Like, old people's skin is very thin. Like, I wonder how they did that with that actor.
Probably strapped around his middle, so we couldn't see it. He's
Yeah.
attached to something behind him. Min Tae-ju says that Byung-soo would take... Okay, I didn't get what he was saying here. So Tae-ju is saying, if you would take on my murders, take responsibility for them, what? Then he would stop?
I thought he just meant he wouldn't kill Eun-hee.
Oh, he wouldn't kill Eun-hee. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That makes
but
sense.
He totally would anyway.
Yeah.
This guy.
Byung-soo wakes up and freaks out and wants Eun-hee to go stay with his sister at the convent. Byung-soo says he has to kill Tae-ju before he forgets who he is. He follows Tae-ju out to a field and sees Tae-ju haul a large suitcase into his trunk. Byung-soo breaks into an abandoned seafood restaurant and finds a camcorder with Miss Jo on it pleading for her life. When Byung-soo confronts Tae-ju, Tae-ju turns the table on him and says Byung-soo's fingerprints are all over the camcorder.
And I like all of his, attempts to like get Tae-ju are so, not good. But I think they do a good job at least of it being like, I mean, this guy is like hanging on by a thread. His memory and your capacity to think and plan, I think would also be so, you can't really see things through and be like, this guy's a cop. Like he's going to be better than you at this. But,
Yeah.
I think that was still, seemed so futile and like tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Byung-soo says Eun-hee is at Byung-soo says Eun-hee is at her aunt's convent, but Tae-ju says Eun-hee says the aunt died. Byung-soo can't find his sister's phone number in his phone, and when he goes to the convent, he finds it is abandoned.
I didn't see that coming.
But okay, that doesn't make no sense because of what we learn about his sister later.
Yeah. And
plot hole.
And also, that's also not like a symptom of Alzheimer's, is it? That like you can go to an abandoned field and imagine that you are at a convent. Like, can that really, like, because there's also a place he's never been, but like that convent never existed, supposedly.
No, it did.
But like his sister was never actually a nun there.
Right.
So that's not a memory he has. So it's like,
right.
Does Alzheimer's do that? Make up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So flashback, his sister hanged herself when they were teenagers.
And this was so sad. He comes because when we first see him getting beat by his father, like there's blood all over his new white Adidas shoes. And so he comes home with shoes for like their mom or something that are brand new and pristine and white, and finds that the daughter's like hung herself. And that just made me so sad for him.
Yeah. I thought the shoes were for himself.
Oh, I thought he said they were for the mom, but they probably also were for him.
Byung-mon and Tae-ju wonder together what to do with Byung-soo. 17 years ago, Byung-soo killed his wife and her lover, and before she died, she told him that Eun-hee was not his daughter.
And I was wondering, when we first see him choke Eun-hee, because he thinks she's somebody else, does he think she's the wife? Like, was that her?
So.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And it was partly because she was wearing makeup, because he's like, oh, you're wearing makeup now. Yeah.
Right. That old trope.
She's a whore because she wears makeup,
Byung-soo thinks he is the maiden killer and that he killed Jo, Young-ju, and Eun-hee. He is about to kill himself, but then he hears Eun-hee's voice on the dictaphone. But then there is a hard cut, and the scene he had with Tae-ju was recorded. What?
This is
So that
when
implicates Taeju. Oh, this is when you're like, no.
I kind of fell out of it because I was just like, how convenient. How
Yeah.
convenient. Like, it really
It had
is
to be.
Deus Ex Machina, you know?
It really had to be something like that, or some way that Taeju was going to slip up. But, in comparison to Byung-Soo's state of mind, like, what's that going to look like?
Yeah.
So,
And it just bothered me because I was like, so no, there's no victory. Like, you didn't mean for this to happen. Like, literally, it was just chance that it turned on. And that just annoyed me because I'm like, this isn't even, I can't even give it up to Byung-Soo. Like, he didn't do anything. And also, Taeju didn't mess up. Like, nobody would ever, there's not a thing that could ever happen. So
right.
that's just what annoyed me. I felt like it could have been done. It kind of like they couldn't figure it out. And they're like, I don't know. It's crazy. The cam turned on.
The cops go to arrest Byung-Soo, but he breaks away and realizes that when he sent Eun-hee away, he sent her away with Taeju. Oh no!
That was so scary.
That was so scary. He's like, wait a second, I called a taxi. I know I called a taxi. Well, wait, who was driving the taxi? And it wasn't a taxi. It was Taeju's car. Ah! Byung-Soo plays the recording over the phone to Byung-man, so Byung-man knows that Taeju is a killer.
And Byung-man is probably the worst policeman ever. This shit pissed me off. It was just like, well, I guess it doesn't even fucking matter that he recorded it because the most inept policeman ever is like, well, I'll just go by myself to murderer's house. Dumbass.
That's a kind of a common thing in Korean movies, though.
They need better training. For real.
Taeju heads back to the station, but Byung-man follows Taeju to a house where he is keeping Eun-hee. She asks where her dad is, and Taeju says that the cops are after him. Taeju tells Eun-hee about the bodies in the grove that his dad had killed. Then Taeju kills on Byung-man.
This pissed me off so much because this guy's so he didn't even stay in the car. He went inside of the house because his phone rang and he's like, oh, I finally got the killer, which you didn't. And he starts smoking and then gets killed. And I'm just like, I mean, you kind of deserve it.
He doesn't get to smoke. He doesn't get to smoke even.
He doesn't even get to smoke. He like takes it out and he's like, oh, well, there's people on the way. There's not. And I just was like, oh, it's all falling apart.
Yeah. Eun-hee sees the body and makes a break for it through the woods. Okay, I thought this was the only time I felt really scared.
Yes.
Was watching him close the gap between their bodies as he was chasing her. That was an amazing shot.
Yes. So scary. It's like she had no chance.
No, he was always going to catch her no matter what. Oh my God. Ugh, got shivers. Taeju catches up to her. There is a surprise revelation that Min Taeju's head is dented. And
what are we doing here? He's got like a prosthetic that what's happening here? Like, this is crazy. This is bonkers. This is so crazy. And then he's like, and you know what? I was trying to protect my mom, and then she's the one that did this to me. So women are all the same. So that's why I'm a misogynist and I kill women. It's like, bro, what? Like they built up so much goodwill with me with Byung-Soo. With it's like, okay, his father beat him so mercilessly. Yes, that would cause somebody to be violent, you know? Okay, this makes sense. And he at least is like trying to say to himself, well, I only kill people that deserve it and stuff. But I'm like, well, at least show us him getting hit with the eye. Like, if they had at least given us a flashback, I think I could have accepted it. I think I could have been like, okay. But the fucking prosthetic with the hair on it. And I mean, the actor's doing his best. The acting in this movie is unparalleled. It's amazing. It saves it. And the fact that we see Taeju kind of falter as he's thinking of this horrible memory for a second and like fastidiously getting his hair back in place, I thought was great. but the whole premise of it pissed me off a little bit.
Yeah. Eun-hee hides in the house and Tae-ju goes to look for her in Byung-mon's cop car. She is not there, but Byung-soo crashes into the car. Byung-soo has an episode. He can't remember anything. Tae-ju starts to strangle Byung-soo. Eun-hee gets free of her gag and calls out to Byung-soo. Okay, I mean, this is probably where I'm out because I'm just like, oh, her voice is going to break the spell of his memory issue. Like, I don't think so.
And just like, I just don't think that I necessarily like believe also the whole premise of him being such a serial killer, but like, you know, that he doesn't feel emotion, but except for his daughter, who is perfect in every way. And it is like, okay, well, had she not been the most perfect daughter ever, would you have hated her? Like, thank God she's perfect in every way, I guess. But it just, I just could not believe that he only had emotion for his daughter. That had he not also gotten Deus Ex Machina memory lost, he would have killed anyway. Like,
right.
I was like, well, how convenient that he got into a car accident then.
That breaks the spell and a fight ensues. Eun-hee gets free and joins in the fight for a second. I mean,
instantly gets tossed off.
Yeah, Byung-soo strangles Tae-ju, but Tae-ju stabs Byung-soo in the side. Byung-soo kills Tae-ju. Eun-hee is horrified and traumatized and asks if he was a serial killer and if he killed her mom. He says yes, and the only one who deserved to die was him because he was born a murderer. But he reveals that he is not her biological dad.
Is there something in Korea that's like, if you are the child of a murderer, that's like even worse than being like, there was a very specific thing they brought up a lot, which is like, no, you're okay because you're not the child of a murderer. But then also it kind of, I was like, but he wasn't born a murderer though. He was made into one. That was the point, was that he was born innocent and his sister in his memories called him like sweet and naive and like loving, and that he was made this way. So I'm like, well, you weren't. And I mean, she is your daughter. I mean, you did raise her. Yeah.
Right.
So I just was like, what does it matter? We're splitting hairs here.
Yeah. In the hospital, the prosecutor asks Byung-soo to tell him everything he remembers. The end of the movie is Byung-soo emerging from the tunnel. In his locket, instead of a picture of Eun-hee, there's a picture of Tae-ju. He tells himself not to trust his memory and that Tae-ju is still alive.
Okay. This also upset me because the end, I thought it was going to end when, you know, he's in prison, somebody's cutting his hair and he gets freaked out because, you know, he's got dementia and he's like, this bitch has scissors, she's trying to kill me. But then he goes to visit him and she cuts his hair, reminiscent of the beginning. That was so sweet. It made me cry because he says that his favorite thing are white shoes and she brings him white shoes and that made me cry. And he thinks that she's his sister. And so he does forget who she is, but that she still loves him. Perfect. End it there. End it right there. Why is he free? Like so much has happened in this jump cut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. And I think somebody just had such a hard on for the movie Memento that they had to do just a like little flourish here at the end. But it doesn't make any sense.
And it's like they, at the end, I was forgiving them. I was like, well, I'm crying now, so you've done something right. Like, this is beautiful. Oh, never mind. I'm mad again. So I wish we could have been on the editing floor because I would have been like, no. We ended with the daughter and the white shoes. Perfect.
Well, Mac, the only trivia I could find is that this was based on a book. which I did not read.
I want to read it now. Maybe. I don't know. Because, yeah, I like. How do you feel about the movie?
I think it's good once. I don't think it has a lot of rewatch value. And I guess I've decided that that's like important to me in terms of how I rate movies. I mean, there are exceptions. I think Requiem for a Dream is a movie I'll never watch again, but I think it's probably a 5-star movie. But this one is not a 5-star movie. It's got a lot of problems with it. I think it's fine up to a point.
Yes. They really get you. And it just makes me sad when you got a movie where it's like, okay, the shots are beautiful. Okay, the acting is like on another level. I like the premise. Okay, yes, memory loss is very scary. All this stuff. And then it's just like whoever's got the pen, we need them to put it down. Because they're doing too much. You don't have to be this crazy. Like, simple things are very good. And they could have executed something so much better, which makes me dislike it more because I'm like, if there's potential, that bums me out, you know?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Well, briefly, what does Letterboxd have to say about it? Suho was here, gave it 5 stars. Love it. The twist, the narration, very, very marvelous. Which I included because I think we need to use the word marvelous more.
I agree.
Mikey gave it 5 stars. Me casually watching one of my favorite thrillers by pure chance. Trying to get to the bottom of something when you're losing your memory is hellish. What is real? What is fake? Did I do, say, or feel that? Incredible performances and acting along with a story that had me guessing throughout its runtime with its twists and turns. What a gem of a film. Will be on my mind for years to come.
I do like what they're saying. Yes.
Yeah.
When he's wondering, like, did I kill, who did, maybe I did. I thought if they could have just given us more of that, of like, when for a second he's like, maybe I'm the maiden killer. Yes.
Yes.
Oh, that's perfect. Do that more. But they just got too much with the cop boyfriend dating Unhee. That's where it all started to lose me, where I just was so like, well, I know there's a twist in here somewhere, and like, I don't like it.
Jace Brasnick gave it 5 stars. Do Korean serial killer thrillers ever miss?
Yes.
Yes. We saw one. Haruro gave it 1.5 stars. Not every Korean serial killer movie is good, I guess.
The duality of man.
I mean, which is like such it's such an easy mistake to make. I mean, Memories of Murder is a perfect film.
Yes.
About a serial killer and an inept cop.
Yeah.
Perfect. This is not that.
And, I guess the bar's just so high because this could actually be a very good American movie, but as a Korean movie, you're just like, I've seen better.
Yep. That's really so true. Yarab gave it 1.5 stars. The headpiece was so fucking weird.
Yes.
It was.
Oh my God. My jaw dropped and not in a good way. Like, I was like, what? Why does it, some things don't need a crazy backstory.
Yeah. Kim Pepe gave it 1 star. I wish to forget about this movie. Okay, how would we rate it? How about in dictaphones?
3.
Okay, I was going to say 3 too. We don't always have to agree, and often we don't. But 3. It's a 3. It won't hurt you. It's fine.
There's so
perfectly fine.
Yeah, and you the performances are truly amazing, And when you don't know what's going to happen, which I guess you do now, listener, you're like, what's going to happen? But then when you know what's happening, you're like, oh no, oh no, oh no. But it's beautiful. And the bamboo grove is so gorgeous. So it's not a waste of time.
No. What have we learned?
I think Haruro said it best, that not every Korean serial killer movie is good, I guess.
Would we watch it again? No.
I would watch select scenes from it again. But yeah, no, not the whole thing.
Did you have a favorite scene or kill?
Yes. I mean, I do love that scene where he's talking to the cop and he's telling the cigarette story scene. I thought that was so beautiful and gave me, like, it made that side character who I was kind of just thinking of as like, oh, whatever side character, it gave him so much depth in that moment. And so I liked that. And I just loved any like interaction that felt real between the characters. Like when they're talking to him and just how horrible it must be to be that guy and have everybody be like, oh, you don't remember? Well, forget it. It's fine. You know, like I think that whole depiction was very good.
Yeah. I'll probably cut this out, but what you just said reminded me of when I was with my stepmom one time, and she has like hearing aids and stuff. And one time she was like, what? And I was just like, that's fine. Don't worry about it. And the look on her face was just like, oh, okay. And it's just, I never want to be that person, you know? But yeah, it's hard getting old.
Yeah.
I liked Cho Yun-ju. I thought she was a really hilarious character.
Yes.
And the whole poetry thing I thought was really, really great. But yeah, any scene, I thought he did great. You could totally tell when he was having an episode and when he wasn't. And yeah, I liked his performance a lot.
Yeah.
Who wins the You Fool Award?
Unhee.
Oh, yeah.
I say that because he is right. Like where he's worried about her going out at night because they know there's this serial killer killing young women. And then when he realizes she got into a car with a stranger, like that anger was justified, I think. Being like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why would you do that? You know?
Yeah.
So I think she should have practiced a little bit more critical thinking.
Yeah. I think the cop.
Yes.
Is the biggest fool.
No, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. He's just not very good at his job.
No. Rest in peace. He got himself killed, though.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He was foolish.
Very foolish.
Well, thank you, Mac, for having this conversation with me about American Psycho and Memoir of a Murderer. And thank you, WoHos, for joining us and for all your support. It means the world of horror to us truly. We appreciate you downloading the show and telling all your friends all about us. Next time, what will we be looking at, Mac? Would you rather we look at movies about home invasion, movies about the end of the world, or adolescence, a horror movies?
Movies about the end of the world.
All right. So that means we're going to be looking at Melancholia from the US, or Melancholia from the US, and Pontypool from Canada. Remember, WoHos, we love you, and don't go into the basement.
Yay!